YouTube fam! This week is the 65th anniversary of Disney's Sleeping Beauty. Now, I know Sleeping Beauty is one of our most problematic fairy tales. I gotta say, though, that that's my favorite movie of the classic Disney princess era. It's just so beautifully animated. I fucking love her dress, but most of all, I love the three fairies. Them trying to make crap with no magic is, I think, just like peak Disney comedy to me. So I love that movie. However, the fairy tale, it's got a lot of issues, and I did a huge Sleeping Beauty series on TikTok way back when I first started doing these videos, so I thought I would compile all of them into a giant Sleeping Beauty celebration? You will notice that the sound quality and the quality of the video in general won't be up to my usual fine standards, but I still think the stories are a lot of fun, and I hope you like them. With a fun twist, what I did was I did the kind of the most famous versions of Sleeping Beauty, and I did them backwards in time instead of going chronologically, which I usually do. So you'll enjoy the Grimm Brothers one first, and then the Charles Perrault version, and those are the two that Disney pulled from the most. Then I'm going to share the Italian one by Giambattista Basile, and that is the most notorious one, and so a trigger warning for an instance of rape in a story. And then I go back another one, and I present a piece of this medieval romance that Basile may have based his version on, and again, trigger warning for a rape scene in that one. So whether you like her, whether you loathe her, well, let's not blame Sleeping Beauty. I'm taking that back. Whether you like the fairy tale or loathe the fairy tale, here is a deep dive into Sleeping Beauty.
Fucked up fairy tales with Liz.
Ding! So let's time travel back to 1812-ish for Grimm's version of Sleeping Beauty, which is called Briar Rose. Once upon a time, there were a king and queen who were unable to produce children, but greatly wanted one. One day, the queen took a beach trip. Psst! Hey, your highness! No, down here!
Talking crab!
No, it's all good. Just letting you know that you're totally gonna have a baby, so don't stress it.
Aw, thank you, Talking Crab!
When the baby was born, they decided to throw a huge party. So in Sleeping Beauty, you may have wondered why the king and queen didn't invite Maleficent to the birth feast. Was it because she's a big old bee? No. In the Grimm version, it was much simpler. Alright, honey, so make a note, in addition to the in-laws, we should probably invite the fairy realm to the feast. Anything you want, dear. We can seat the fairies together, and we can serve them on that beautiful golden china we have. Sounds great, though you do know we're gonna have to get an extra plate. Oh shit, you're right! There's only 12 plates in that collection! And 13 fairies. Right, so like I said, an extra plate. Oh, no, we're not doing that. Do you understand party planning at all, honey? What's the point of showing off that beautiful golden china if we're gonna have one ragtag plate in there? We'll just invite fairies 1 through 12, alright? Alright, I'm sure that won't cause any drama. And it did. But first, as is tradition in most baby showers, we got to watch everyone's gifts get opened first. So at the birth celebration feast of Briar Rose, the 12 fairies who were invited bestowed their gifts. Your Majesties, I give Briar Rose the gift of virtue. Oh, that's nice, thank you. Your Majesties, I bring the gift of beauty. Oh! I mean, it's a little insulting that you don't think she'll be beautiful anyway because of her parentage. But next, I give her punctuality. Oh, it wasn't on the registry, but thank you. I give her intelligence, wit and humor, a never-ending supply of diapers. She'll be instantly potty-trained as of tomorrow. Bertha, what the fuck? Artistically gifted, the ability to talk to animals, fertility, the Baby Dior luxury stroller. It's $5,000. Ah! Beat that, 12. Oh, hold the floor, shit stains. Oh, 13th fairy! Oh, this is so awkward. Well, that's one way to put it. So did you think I wouldn't know that you didn't invite me to this birth celebration for the Princess Briar Rose? The most talked about event in the entire kingdom? And you invited literally the rest of my fairy brethren too? Well, don't worry about it. I brought a present anyway. Oh, please don't feel obliged. I insist. On the princess's 15th birthday, she'll prick her finger on a spindle and die. Oh, so specific. Why 15? I mean, you could just kill her now, because I want you to grow and love her. I want you to get confident that it actually isn't going to happen. I want to laugh while you try to prevent it.
But most of all, I want you to experience the toddler and teenage years. Because from what I hear, they're kind of a doozy. I believe that's called a mic drop, people. Bye-bye, assholes. Now, the 12th fairy had been interrupted before she could give her gift, so she was able to amend things a bit. I was gonna give her free ice cream for life, but let's see what else I can do. Okay, let's put an asterisk on that whole dying at the age of 15 by spindle thing, and instead I'll enchant her into a 100-year sleep. Is that all? I mean, we'll all die before she wakes up! We might as well lose her anyway! Well, there's more to it than that, but since you interrupted me, I'm gonna leave the rest a mystery. So the king decided he needed to do whatever he can to save his daughter anyway. Destroy all spindles! Burn every last one of them! Felted wool and leather goods only! I don't actually know if spindles are required for felted wool. Don't come for me, wool talk! So now I bet you'd like to get to know Briar Rose a bit. Well, fuck you! Her 15 years are summed up in one line by Grimm. Meanwhile, she grew up and became marvelously beautiful. On the day of her 15th birthday, the king and queen inexplicably leave her alone in the castle. Why do I feel like we had something going on today? It's called Mama Needs a Second Honeymoon, Friedrich. Hello, world, it's my birthday! And I'm all alone. Guess I'll explore this weird old castle. Oh, look, a tall, skinny tower that's been locked for some reason. In the tower, the princess found an old woman spinning flax. Was she the fairy in disguise? No, just a random old lady with a spindle that somehow didn't get destroyed. Other versions get into it a little bit, but not Grimm. Hey, mysterious old lady, what's your deal? Just sitting around, spinning some flax with my black market spindle. What's flax? What's a spindle? Can I try? Sure, dear, what's the harm? Briar Rose picked up the spindle, she pricked herself, and she fell into a very deep sleep. Just then the king and queen came home. Oh god, we just remembered! But they too fell into the sleep, as well as everyone on the palace grounds, animals, humans included. Even inanimate objects, it seems like they were frozen in time / sleeping. While Briar Rose and her family in the court are all frozen in time sleeping in the castle, a hedge of thorns grows up around the castle protectively, hiding it from view. But the rumor of the beautiful Briar Rose persists, and many princes come to try to rescue her. But they can't get past this hedge of thorns. The thorns grab them like hands, and they die there. And yet they keep coming. After 100 years, one of those such princes comes by and meets an old man there. Hey, old man, what's the deal with this hedge of thorns? Well, son, rumor has it that there is a beautiful princess lying asleep past those thorns. But no prince has been able to rescue her, as you can see from all of those mangled bodies hanging in there. Well, old fellow, I believe that I can persevere through that hedge. I had a feeling you'd say that. But if you wouldn't mind waiting for me to get some popcorn and a soda so I can enjoy this shit show, I would greatly appreciate it. But for this prince, the hedge of thorns parted and gave him a path full of flowers. Well, that was disappointing. The prince entered Briar Rose's castle with no trouble. He walked through the whole thing, taking in the sleeping animals and courtiers, the fire frozen in the fireplace. Finally, he makes his way up to the tower where Briar Rose is asleep. Oh my god, she's so pretty. Can't resist kissing her! Hey, you're awake! Who the fuck are you? I think I'm your husband now. Snooze. Wait! When Briar Rose woke up, the rest of the castle soon followed, and the wedding between the prince and Briar Rose was celebrated in great splendor. The end. So that's the Grimm brothers' take on Sleeping Beauty. Their version was an orally told version that was inspired by the Perrault story, which was written a little over 100 years earlier. But they also used the Brunhilde myths as some inspiration as she was put in an enchanted sleep. In later versions, they revised the crab to a frog, telling the queen that she would have a baby. And they chose to admit the extended ending of the fairy tale. Or, well, at least somebody omitted the ending, because there is an extended ending. But we will get into that in the Perrault version. So Princess Aurora's name is a reference to the version of Sleeping Beauty written by Charles Perrault in the 1690s. But Aurora is not the princess's name. Let's launch into Charles Perrault's The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. See if you can spy the differences from the Grimm version I told last week. Once upon a time, there were a king and queen who desperately wanted a child. They did everything they could, it weren't going so hot, but at long last they had a daughter. Naturally, the king and queen threw a huge feast in celebration of the princess's birth, and they invited all the fairies they could find in the realm for a specific reason. We'll make all the fairies godmothers of the child. I'm listening. Because fairy custom decrees that they'll each bestow her with a gift. Brilliant! That's 7 fairies and 7 blessings. Excellent. Now you're sure there's just 7? There are just 7. There were 8. After Sleeping Beauty's christening, the 7 fairies who were invited to the feast were seated at golden place settings. But just as they all sat down to be served, an 8th fairy arrived. Hold your horses, I'm here. Oh my god, it's Miriam! Girl, we all thought you were dead! I've been home this whole time if you thought to visit me. Oh shit! Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit! Fuck me, get another place setting set up stat! Oh, I see. Everyone else gets gold and I get a paper plate and a fucking Dixie cup. One of the invited fairies could hear the threats the old woman muttered under her breath. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go hide behind that tapestry and see how this goes down. Just feel like I might have to save my blessing for the end. So for the Grimm version, I made up most of the gifts that the fairies bestowed, but Charles Perrault fills in the details. She'll be the most beautiful girl in the world. The temper of an angel. So graceful. Boom, amazing dancer. Sings like a bird. Musical prodigy. My turn. Alright, douche nozzles, here's the deal. Since none of you thought to even fucking knock on my door and see if I was alive, I curse the princess to prick her finger on a spindle and die. Are spindles sharp? No. I learned that on TikTok. But I'm an ancient fairy, I do what I want. It was then the last good fairy made her entrance. Okay, let's fix this. First of all, no dying. I'm just spitballing here. She'll fall into 100-year sleep. Oh, and a king's son will wake her. Okay, does that help? We're not gonna freak out or anything? I hereby forbid the use of spinning wheels or spindles by penalty of death. Great party. Now we fast forward 16 years. The king and queen were out of town, on pleasure bent, and the princess was exploring the castle. I'm gonna explore this castle that I've lived in for 16 years but literally never walked around before. So Sleeping Beauty, who does not have a name in Perrault's version, finds a tower in her own castle where there's an old woman spinning. An old woman who lives in this tower in Sleeping Beauty's castle who has no idea that spinning has been forbidden. Now what's funny is the old fairy who everyone thought was dead also lives in a tower. And you'd think it would make sense in this story to have them be the same, but I don't think they are. I think I'm just worried about the old women in this kingdom. No one checks on them, no one talks to them. And because of that, princesses die. Sort of. Hey, you old broad, what are you doing? I'm spinning yarn, child. Oh, can I try? I'm really good at stuff. I can play like 15 instruments, and do like every dance. Triple threat! Give it a whirl, you conceited brat. Oh! And she fell into a profound slumber. Continued in part 5. When Sleeping Beauty falls down into a swoon, the old spinning woman is like, "Oh fuck, I killed her! For God's sake, someone come up here and tell me what's going on!" The courtiers come up and start trying to revive Sleeping Beauty, to no avail. Then Perrault tells us the king heard the commotion from downstairs, and Chuck, that's called a plot hole, suddenly recalls the prophecy about his daughter, and has her set up in a beautiful apartment on a bed of gold and silver. Then Perrault tells us how, due to her complexion and her breathing, she definitely wasn't dead, which may seem an odd thing to mention, but when we get to the Basile version, it won't seem so odd. So meanwhile, the fairy who had reversed the curse and made it a sleeping one, she was in some kingdom 12,000 leagues away. A dwarf wearing magical boots leapt his way to her within a day. Hey, that princess you wanted me to keep an eye on is asleep. Thanks for the reminder, I need to add some amendments to that blessing of mine. Summon my chariot of dragons. Yes, I have a chariot of dragons. Sometimes the good fairies get to be the bad bitch. The good fairy rushed back to Sleeping Beauty's castle and complimented the king on the setup he had created for her. She then explained her reason for returning. I realized the poor thing would wake up 100 years in the future and all of her friends would be dead. So I'm going to bewitch all of her servants, all of the animals in the castle, and even the fire itself to fall asleep and wake up along with her in 100 years. Oh, thank goodness, my wife and I were so sad we would die before she would awake. Oh, I'm not bewitching you two. What? Why? Gotta go. Bye! The king and queen kiss their daughter goodbye and are never heard from again. Brambles and thorns grow all around the castle, protecting the princess and everyone in it from prying eyes. So rumors naturally grow over the 100 years. Apparently during this time, the kingdom also changes hands to another family. I'm guessing this is why the king and queen were just set to die. The son of this new king decides to go hunting one day. He saw the castle and all of its thorns and asked around about what the deal was. There were a lot of rumors around the town about what was actually inside the thorns around Sleeping Beauty's castle. I heard it was ghosts. It's a party house for witches. There's an ogre there that eats children. The newly arrived prince had no idea who to believe. Then he heard the most interesting take. I heard there's a babe there, and she's just waiting for some prince to wake her up. Hey now, I like that version. Hardly had he took a step toward the castle when a path formed for him. And the further he walked in, they closed up behind him to prevent anyone from following. He was actually really freaked out when he saw everyone inside. Jesus Christ, this place is full of dead people! Wait, is that fire frozen in time? Alright, I'm gonna check out that gold apartment. Oh my god. The prince was enraptured with Sleeping Beauty. He knelt down beside her, and bring! The 100 years is up and she just fucking woke up, no kiss! Oh my prince, you've been so long coming! That's what she said. Wait, what do you mean? So not only is Sleeping Beauty not woken up with a kiss in Perrault's version, there is a whole second part of this story, which begins now. As part of the sleeping spell that was cast upon Sleeping Beauty, the fairy gave her these dreams that apparently told her she would wake up to find this prince. So she's totally cool, calm, and collected while the prince is like, "Awooga, you're pretty." But they're enamored with each other, and they talk to each other for 4 hours upon her waking. Meanwhile, the rest of the castle is woken up and they're just waiting for these two to stop yammering over each other. And this isn't a joke, this is in the story. A lady in waiting finally yells, "Dinner is served!" Because these people are so fucking hungry after waking up after 100 years. The prince helps Sleeping Beauty out of bed, and he sees her clothes that are 100 years old, and he's like, "Aw, she dresses like my grandma." The two of them are served supper, and they get married that night. But the prince isn't too sure his parents are going to be keen on this marriage, so he lies to them on his return. When the prince returns home after marrying Sleeping Beauty, he tells his parents that he had just gotten lost hunting and he stayed with some peasant overnight. His father's easygoing and believes him, but his mother is skeptical. Especially because over the next 2 years, he keeps going off on these long trips and then returning. And she's like, well, he's fucking some hussy. She starts pestering him to settle down, but he refuses to tell her the truth, and that's because... Twist! His mother is an ogre who his father only married for the wealth. And whenever she's near children, she's like, God, I just want to eat those little bastards. It isn't until his father has died and he has officially taken the throne that he tells his mom the truth. Look, Ma, I'm already married. This is my wife, and these are our 2 children. The children's names are Dawn and Day. And Dawn in French is Aurora. So now you know where that came from. The queen is not happy about this. When her son is called off to war, she sees her chance to deal with Sleeping Beauty and the children. While her son is away, the queen takes Sleeping Beauty and the 2 children to a house in the country. Once she's there, she summons the steward at the castle to her, and she tells him, "Tomorrow for my dinner, I want to eat little Dawn." And she sends the steward to kill the kid, and he's like, "Oh no, 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 no." He brings a knife up to the girl's room, and she's like, "Hiya, mister!" "No, no, 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 I can't do it." He hides the little girl with his wife, and instead serves the queen a lamb in this piquant sauce she loves. A week later, the queen is like, "Tonight serve me my grandson." The steward goes to kill the toddler, but the toddler's like, "I like karate." No, 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 no. He hides her with his wife and serves the queen a goat in that sauce, and she falls for it. But then the queen is like, "Cook up their mother in that sauce." And the steward is so overwhelmed with lying, he thinks he's gonna follow through this time. But when he approaches Sleeping Beauty with the knife, she's like, "Do it! I'll finally be reunited with my dead children." Yeah, no one kept her up to date. Continued in part 11. The steward reassures Sleeping Beauty that he will not kill her, and he hides her with the 2 children with his wife. It's not the best hiding place because he lives on the castle grounds. He serves the queen a cow instead, she buys it and thinks everyone's gone. But one day, when the ogre queen is walking the grounds, she passes the steward's quarters and she hears the voices of the children and the queen. And this is what they're saying. "Oh, Mommy, please don't whip me for being naughty. Yes, Mommy, please don't beat my brother." Bet you didn't see that one coming. The ogre queen was enraged to find out she'd been tricked. And the next day she orders that this huge vat of like snakes and toads and vipers and shit be placed outside in the palace grounds. She has Sleeping Beauty and the 2 children and the steward and his wife brought out with their hands tied behind their backs. And she's gonna cast them into it to be eaten alive. And then the king comes home and it's basically this. What the fuck is happening? Someone tell me what the fuck is going on here? I'm a toddler. Ah! And the Ogre Queen is just enraged and throws herself into the vat. And those little monsters inside just eat her up. The king is like, she's my mom, so I guess technically I'm a little sad? But he gets over it. And that, my friends, is the end. But Perrault's tales are classified by having a very long moral at the end, written in verse. And this is the moral for the Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. Many a girl has waited long for a husband brave or strong, but I'm sure I never met any sort of woman yet who could wait 100 years, free from fretting, free from fears. Now our story seems to show that a century or so, late or early, matters not. True love comes by fairy lot. Some old folk will even say it grows better by delay. Yet this good advice, I fear, helps us neither there nor here, though philosophers may prate how much wiser 'tis to wait. Maids will be a sighing still. Young blood must when young blood will. Is that a moral? Good things come to those who wait, but bitches probably won't. Thanks, Charles. So that's Perrault's Sleeping Beauty. Thanks to those of you who have noted how much work it seems like I put into these videos. I've been working on this tale for about 5 hours now, and I haven't even started editing some of the videos. So your support means a lot if you want to visit the link and help out. And we'll have one more Sleeping Beauty version for you. And it is the darkest timeline. See you soon! Oh, I forgot this tidbit, so I'm just adding it in. Grimm used Perrault's tales as inspiration, but they almost didn't include this because they kind of felt like it was his and they weren't sure it was actually German in origin at all. But they did decide there were enough German roots. But it's in their first volume of tales as 2 different stories. The first part, Briar Rose, up to when she gets kissed and woken up, and the second half is a totally different story called The Evil Mother-in-Law, which they did not include in later volumes. Here's a content warning because this is the version of Sleeping Beauty where she is raped. Yes, this fairy tale truly fits my series. Fucked Up Fairy Tales with Liz. Ding! Once upon a time, there was a great lord who had a daughter named Talia. Upon her birth, the lord summoned all of these wise men and astrologers to predict her future. And her horoscope did not look so good. After counseling together, the astrologers came to the conclusion that Talia would come into great danger from a splinter of flax. Naturally, her father decided that all flax products and hemp products and anything related to that would be forbidden from their household in hopes of protecting her. But after Talia had grown up and into a beautiful young lady, she was looking out the window and she saw this woman spinning flax. Talia had never seen one before, so she was like, "What's the deal?" The old woman came to her, handed off the flax, and Talia began playing with it, and in doing so a splinter from the flax lodged itself under her nail, and she fell dead to the ground. This freaked the old woman out, and she ran away and ran down the stairs, and I quote, "is running still." Oh no! Her father was told of this disaster, and his reaction was a lovely line in the story. He paid for this tub of sour wine with casks of tears. The Lord laid out Talia in a beautiful room full of velvet and all the goods, and he just abandoned the house in his grief, left, never returned. So a little time goes by, and this king was hunting in the forest in the area. A falcon of his flew into Talia's castle. The king had his hunting party knock on the doors, but no one answered. He had them bring him a ladder so he could climb inside to retrieve the bird. He explored the house a little bit, found it abandoned, and then finally found Talia. He tried to wake her up, and when she didn't wake up, he cried, and then he raped her. When he was done, he left her on the bed, and he left the castle, and he gave it no more thought. This is not the Prince Philip I was promised. 9 months later, Talia gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. She had a couple fairy attendants who attempted to help the babies start nursing on her. The babies were having trouble latching on her nipples, so they start sucking on her fingers, and the splinter of flax comes out, and Talia wakes up. When Talia wakes up, she does not know what has happened to her. She sees that she has 2 babies, and Basile makes sure we know that she gets them to latch onto the nipple. I just feel like he likes saying nipple. Talia notices that there's dinner set up for her, but she doesn't see anyone attending her. So she starts raising them babies. Sometime in the near future, the king remembers Talia! He just seems so great. Here's the thing, he's married, but he tells the old wife he's off to hunt. He returns to the palace, and he does find her awake with the babies. And he's like, "Hey, I came upon you, I saw you were unconscious, I had my way with you, and here we are." And apparently Talia's real cool with that. The king spends a few days there, and then he has to go home, but he tells Talia he'll send for her someday. And Talia's like, "I'm saving all my love for you." They've named the babies Sun and Moon, and when the king returns, he cannot stop muttering their names in his sleep. And his wife is like, "My name is not Talia." Yeah, she's suspicious, because he keeps going off on these hunting trips and muttering another woman's name in his sleep, so she sends for her royal secretary. The queen says to that guy, "Listen to me, you son of a whore, I'm about to make you or break you. You go and find out who my husband's in love with and I will give you all the riches in the world. If you hide the truth from me, no one will ever find your body." And that guy is like, "Ah." And I think it's important here to note that Basile says about this guy, "Greed and fear blinded his eyes to all sense of honor and justice." Which is giving me a real snitches get stitches vibe, because she did just blackmail his ass. I don't know, I guess I just feel like the queen is like, "Tell me if my husband's cheating on me under penalty of death, it's not that guy's fault." Anyway, the secretary figures it out and he tells her the deal, and the queen sends the secretary to Talia to tell her that the king would like to see the children. So Talia sends them off with the secretary thinking, "You said be patient, just wait a little longer." Once the children are there, the queen orders the cook to kill them and put them into dinner for her husband that night. And the cook is like, yeah, sure thing. But instead he hides the children with his wife. He cooks up the king and queen some lamb instead in 100 different dishes. So I don't know, maybe he's just trying to overwhelm them with choice so that the queen won't guess that it's lamb and not children. And then we see their dinner scene, and that's my favorite part of this version. "Wow, this dinner is incredible!" "Well, of course you like it. You're eating of your own." "I just never think I've enjoyed any dinner here so much." "Well, eat well. You provided the meat." "What the fuck are you on about?" "I'm just saying the meal came from you." "Yeah, honey, I know it came from me. 'Cause you don't provide a goddamn thing in this house." I swear to God if I wasn't making him eat his own children in front of me. And the king is so pissed he goes off to his man cave to whine. The queen is not satisfied. She has the secretary send for Talia, who's like, "Tonight is the night we'll be making love." Of course, when Talia arrives to the castle, she meets not the king, but his furious wife. She rattles off a list of insults. "Madam Busybody, you fine piece of goods. You ill weed of filth. The cruel bitch who has been enjoying my husband. You ready to meet your maker?" And Talia's like, "I did not know I was asleep." But the queen will hear none of it. She has a huge pyre built to cast Talia into. Talia kneels before the queen and she begs her to be allowed to take off her beautiful rich garments. And the queen is like, "Yeah, take off those garments, I'm gonna want to keep those." And for some fucking reason we're treated to this paragraph where Talia's removing each garment and like screaming every time. And I don't know, it's just like this like violence with her undressing. I fucking hate this version. The king returns before they can light the pyre and he's like, "What the fuck is happening here?" He sees Talia and he's like, "Where are my children?" And the queen is like, "You ate them, you idiot! And you didn't even get my awesome jokes." And the king is like, "Oh no, God, why?" And he calls the queen, "You renegade bitch." Basile really likes the word bitch. And the king throws his wife into the pyre instead of Talia. Then he burns the secretary alive. And he's about to burn the cook alive for slaughtering his kids. But the cook is like, "That royal bitch made me do it and I hid your kids with my wife, it's all good." And the king is like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna give you a promotion instead of a fiery death." I wonder if I should have given the secretary a chance to explain. And at last, finally free of the old ball and chain, the king and Talia are together forever, and he's a wonderful father and husband. And Basile attaches a moral to the end. Those who fortune favors find good luck even in their sleep. Yeah, so lucky. The end, thank God. Basile pulled this story from a very long medieval romance from the 14th century. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I am putting it in the video, that's the title. And actually, I just read a summary of the Sleeping Beauty part of it, and I kind of want to give it its own video. So way before Disney's Sleeping Beauty, we had the Grimm version. But before that, we had the Perrault version. But before that, we had the Basile version. But before that, we had another one! So let's get into it here on Fucked Up Fairy Tales with Liz. Way back in the 14th century, there was a very long medieval romance called Perceforest. It's sort of like a prequel to the King Arthur stories. It is very long. In chapter 46 of the third book of Perceforest, we meet Princess Zelendine. Princess Zelendine is a beautiful princess from Zealand, and she has a boyfriend. He is a knight named Troilus, and he's from Royalville, Scotland. I'm loving these names. Troilus hears that his girlfriend has fallen into a deep sleep of mysterious origin. On his way to Zealand to see what's up with her, he does have some adventures that I don't know about, because I'm not reading that book, guys. And after his adventures, he goes to a temple of three goddesses to seek out advice on how to save Zelandine. The goddess Venus responds to his appeal, and she tells him, and I quote, "When you pluck from the slit the fruit that holds the cure, the girl will be healed." So to me, the gist is pretty clear. But Troilus is like, I don't know. But he seeks out his lady love anyway. Troilus discovers that his Sleeping Beauty is being kept in a very high tower. How the fuck am I supposed to get up there? Lucky for him, a mysterious being just whisks him up there. The mysterious being tells him, "Heed the words of Venus, my dude." Troilus finds Zelandine laid out on a beautiful bed. And on the bed, she was wearing a suit of the birthday kind. Fun fact, her dad put her there that way! Troilus recalls that kisses have healing powers, but he's actually kind of bent out of shape as to whether to kiss her without her permission. He actually asks her permission, but of course, she's asleep. And then he does it anyway, obviously. But nothing happens. And he's like, "Venus, what the fuck?" And Venus is like, "Ugh, mortals are such idiots. I want you to do your girlfriend, kid." I guess to Troilus's credit, he's still kinda hesitant, but Venus urges him along, and, he does rape her. And then that mysterious being shows up at midnight to take him away. Troilus puts his ring on the finger of the sleeping princess. I guess to maybe cover his bases. Not like it does. And the being turns into a bird and flies that guy away. So now we get to the part of Sleeping Beauty where she has a baby while she's out. Yeah, so Zelandine gives birth to the baby while she's still sleeping. Just one baby in this origin story. The baby attempts to nurse on her, but can't find her breast, so it nurses on her finger, and that wakes her up. The story does have Zelandine acknowledge her rape. Having discovered that she has a baby, she knows she is no longer a virgin, and that is difficult for her. And it's interesting that back in the 14th century, this was something that was acknowledged. You know, obviously not glowingly or progressively well, but it was acknowledged, but then Basile threw that part of it away in his adaptation. Anyway, back in the 14th century, Zelandine discovers that not only does she have a baby, but her aunt is hanging out with her. And she's like, "Hey auntie, so what the fuck happened to me?" "Oh good, you're awake!" Alright, so back around your birth, we had a big party to celebrate. We had a feast for the three goddesses, but something pissed Themis off. Let's flash back and see what that was. Excuse me, you motherfuckers forgot to give me a knife? So yeah, I think I'm gonna curse your baby. She cursed you to be pricked by a flax seed the first time you ever sat down to do some spinning, and you fell asleep, and here we are. Yeah, so no one thought to tell me this? Well, you know, you think I'll tell her someday, and then poof, all of a sudden, there you are, cursed. But luckily, Themis worked in that clause that the flaxseed could get sucked out of your finger. And it had to be a baby to do it. No one thought, hey, let's just suck on her finger. I mean, yeah, that's a little weird, but it's definitely less invasive and traumatic than what you ended up doing. You know, this conversation is getting very uncomfortable for me. Let's just move on. So immediately after she wakes up, a half-woman, half-bird steals her fucking baby right out from the window. Girl's having a rough fucking day. And Zelandine sees the ring on her finger belongs to Troilus, and I guess she's like, well, there's that. Her and Troilus do eventually marry. And their son, who was stolen out of the window by the bird lady, he becomes a knight who has great deeds and adventures down the line. And it turns out that Zelandine is an ancestor of Sir Lancelot of the Round Table. So that's the last of my Sleeping Beauty videos. Yes, we are finally putting that fairy tale to rest. Come on, that's the best joke I've made in this series so far. I'm gonna cite some sources. I retold this from a retelling by Danielle Cebulski, who is a historian. She has a podcast called The Medieval Podcast, where she talks about Middle Ages life and dispels myths about the period. And she published this article on Persephorus and the origins of Sleeping Beauty on medievalists.net. So you should check out her stuff if you're interested in the Middle Ages and its stories.
Fucked Up Fairy Tales with Liz. Fucked Up Fairy Tales with Liz.